Selene had always been the kind of woman who noticed things. She noticed when the milk was running low before anyone else did. She noticed when their youngest daughter, Layla, was having a hard week just by the way she held her spoon at breakfast. She noticed when a room needed a different kind of quiet, and she provided it, without being asked, without expecting a word of thanks. For 14 years, she had been noticing things on behalf of a man named Darius. Darius was tall and confident, and moved through the world the way rivers move through stone, not around obstacles, but through them. He had built his real estate company from nothing. One small office, one second-hand desk, and a phone that never stopped ringing, because he made sure it never stopped ringing. People admired him, people told him so, often, and he received it easily, the way a man receives something he has always believed he deserved. What those people did not see, what Darius himself had quietly chosen not to see, was the woman who had made the foundation under his feet. Selene had co-signed his first 3 business loans when no bank believed in him. She had spent nights beside him going over contracts while their daughters slept in the next room. She had charmed his difficult clients at dinner parties, remembering their wives' names, their children's sports teams, the exact way each of them took their coffee. She had answered emails at midnight and made it look effortless by morning. She had given 14 years of herself to a life she believed in and to a man she loved. On a Tuesday evening in October, Darius sat across from her at their kitchen table and told her he was leaving. He did not cry. He did not apologize in any way that meant something. He spoke the way he always spoke, with the careful confidence of a man who had already made a decision and was now simply informing the relevant parties. He said he had met someone. He said he needed something different. He said he hoped she understood. Selene sat very still. She looked at the table between them, the same table where they had celebrated birthdays, argued about money, helped their daughters with homework, eaten 10,000 ordinary meals. She looked at his hands folded in front of him. She looked at his face, which was calm in a way that told her everything she needed to know about how long he had been rehearsing this moment. She said nothing for a long time. Then she said, very quietly, "Okay." That was all, just that one word, and the weight of everything she chose not to attach to it. Her name was Brianna. She was 29 years old, and worked in marketing, and laughed at everything Darius said. She made him feel like the most interesting man in any room, which is a specific kind of gift that some people give freely, and others have to be paid to give. Darius moved Brianna into a downtown apartment he had purchased through one of his companies. He told himself this was a new chapter. He told himself that he was not destroying anything, only outgrowing it. He posted a photograph on social media within the first month, both of them in sunlight, somewhere warm, her hand resting on his chest. He wrote 2 words beneath the photo: new chapter. His daughters, Maya, who was 16, and Layla, who was 13, did not call him for 19 days. He noticed the silence. He told himself it was a phase. He had always been someone that people came back to, and he saw no reason his own children would be different. What Darius did not understand, what he had never allowed himself to sit still long enough to understand, was that his life had been constructed the way certain old buildings are constructed, beautifully from the outside, solid to the eye, but with the weight distributed in ways that were not always obvious until something structural was removed. Selene was the structure. She had never made noise about it. That was simply not who she was. She kept records the way some people keep gardens, with quiet, consistent attention, out of habit, out of care, out of a private understanding that things left untended eventually fall apart. For 14 years she had documented meetings, saved email chains, organized contribution records, and filed every piece of paper that crossed the threshold of their shared life. She had not done this out of suspicion. She had done it because she was the kind of person who believed that clarity protects everyone. When the divorce proceedings began, her attorney placed 47 documents on the table. Darius sat across from them and felt, for the first time in many years, like the smallest person in a room. The documents showed that Selene had been a co-founder, not simply a supportive spouse. They showed that 3 of his most profitable ventures had her name on the foundational paperwork. They showed that 2 of his most important client relationships had been introduced through her personal connections, men who had trusted her before they ever trusted him. The settlement took 40% of his holdings. It took the house he had built as a monument to his own success. It took the lake property he had been most proud of. It took assets he had believed were entirely his, because he had believed that being the loudest voice in a room meant he was the only voice that counted. Within 3 months of the settlement, 2 of his major clients made quiet, polite decisions to take their business elsewhere. Both of them called Selene directly, not to conduct business, but to offer their respect. One of them sent flowers. The other sent a short handwritten note that said only, "We always knew who was holding things together." Darius stood at the window of his downtown apartment and read that note twice. He put it on the kitchen counter. He walked away from it. He came back to it. He read it a third time. He thought about the 14 years. He thought about the table in the old kitchen. He thought about the way Selene used to catch his eye across a crowded dinner party, a small, private look that said, "I've got this, keep going," and how he had always moved forward without stopping to understand what that look was carrying. Brianna was warm and funny, and genuinely kind in her own way. But she had started coming home later. She had started going quiet in the evenings, in a way that had a different texture than ordinary quiet. One night she sat across from him and told him, without any cruelty, that he seemed to need something she did not know how to give. That there was a weight around him she had not anticipated. That she loved him, but she also loved herself, and those 2 things had stopped being compatible. She left on a Thursday morning in April. He did not fight it. He sat in the apartment he had bought to feel free, and he listened to the particular silence that follows when a person who has been filling a space is no longer there. It was different from Selene's leaving. Selene's leaving had felt like a business decision being executed. This felt like weather, something that had simply changed while he was looking the other direction. Maya's high school graduation was held on a Saturday in June, in the gymnasium of a school that smelled like floor polish and old pride. Darius arrived with a card and a gift and a careful expression. He found a seat 3 rows behind Selene, who had arrived with her mother and 2 of her oldest friends. Women who had driven 6 hours because that was the kind of friendship Selene kept. Not wide, but deep, and loyal, past any reasonable obligation. He watched Selene from 3 rows back. She was laughing at something one of her friends had said. Her hair was different, shorter, and it suited her. She wore a blue dress he had never seen before. She looked, from 3 rows back, like a woman who was genuinely happy to be exactly where she was. He had not seen that specific kind of happiness on her face in a long time. He understood, sitting in that gym, that he had not noticed its absence until he saw it return to her. The ceremony began. Names were called one by one. Maya walked across the stage in her cap and gown, and from 3 rows back, Darius watched her scan the audience with the fast, instinctive sweep of a person looking for home. Her eyes found Selene. She smiled. A full, open, unguarded smile. She held up one hand, fingers spread, and Selene pressed her fingers to her lips, and then extended her hand back. It was a small thing, a private language between a mother and her daughter. Darius had not known about it. He had not been present for its invention. He clapped when Maya's name was called. The sound of his own hands felt strange. He kept clapping until it would have been strange to continue, and then he stopped, and the clapping from the rows around him continued on without him, as if nothing had changed. He tried, once, to explain himself. 4 months after the graduation, he sent Selene a long message. He had written it over the course of several evenings, revising it, cutting it down, building it back up. In it, he said things he had not known how to say when they were married. He said he understood now, or was beginning to. He said he was sorry in the specific ways that are much easier to say when the damage is already settled and the apology costs nothing material. He sent it on a Sunday night. Selene read it that same evening, sitting in the small house she had bought 6 blocks from the girls' school. The kitchen window faced a neighbor's garden. She had started leaving it open in the evenings because she liked the smell of it. She read the message carefully. She read it the way she read everything, fully, without rushing, giving it the attention it was asking for. Then she put her phone down on the table beside her tea. She did not respond. Not out of anger, not to punish him. She had moved, in the months since, to a place where his words were addressed to a version of her that no longer had that address. The woman he was writing to, the one who needed his acknowledgement to feel settled, had been replaced by someone who was simply living her life and finding, to her own quiet surprise, that it was enough. The small house suited her in ways the large one never had. She could see both ends of it from the front door. She knew exactly where everything was. She cooked what she wanted in the evenings and ate it without the background noise of someone else's appetites and preferences filling the room. She took long walks on Saturday mornings. She started reading again, real books, novels, the kind that ask something of you, for the first time in years. The nonprofit she had been quietly consulting with for 3 years offered her a full position in September. She had always told herself she would do that kind of work someday, when she had the time. She had the time now. Maya and Layla came home most weekends. The 3 of them cooked together in the small kitchen, always making too much food, and solving this problem by eating it anyway, standing over the stove, laughing at things that only made sense inside their particular family. Layla started calling her mother the main character as a joke, and then as a term of respect, and then it simply became the ordinary way things were understood between them. Selene did not think of herself that way. She thought of herself as a woman who had made something out of what she had been given, and then, when given back her own life, had made something out of that too. Darius sold the downtown apartment 14 months after Brianna left. He bought something smaller, on a quieter street, with a yard he had not planned for but found himself using, pulling weeds on Sunday mornings, planting things that took weeks to show any sign of life, learning patience from the ground in a way he had never learned it from people. He was still capable, and still good at his work, and still walked into rooms with a kind of natural authority. But something had shifted in the way he occupied himself. He was quieter. People who had known him for years noticed it without naming it. He listened more in meetings. He asked people questions, and then waited for the actual answers. He thought about Selene often, not with longing, or not only with longing, more with the specific, hard-edged attention of a man who has finally become curious about something he spent years looking directly past. He thought about what it had cost her to be invisible, whether she had felt it as a cost or simply accepted it as the shape of her life. He thought about the 47 documents and what it said about her, that she had kept them all, not as weapons, but as records, as the work of a woman who believed that what happened deserved to be accurately remembered. He thought about the way she had looked at that graduation, 3 rows ahead of him, laughing at something her friend said. He thought about the blue dress he had never seen before. He thought, she was always that person. I just never looked. Some stories have a lesson that arrives clearly, wrapped and labeled, easy to carry away. This one does not. What it has instead is this: a woman who spent 14 years making something excellent out of someone else's potential, who lost the version of her life she had planned, who sat with that loss quietly and without drama, and who discovered on the other side of it that what she had always been most capable of was not holding someone else up. It was standing. She had been doing it the whole time, beneath everything else, without recognition, without a title, without the credit. The sacred moon, if there is such a thing, does not announce itself. It simply keeps doing what it does, pulling the tide in, pulling the tide out, running the whole invisible system that everything else depends on. And when the thing that called itself the center finally looked up and asked where all the light was coming from, it found only its own long shadow, stretching out behind it, and the steady, quiet sky.